Hello?
Do you have the money?
I have some. I'm working to get the rest.
Do you want me to give you some of your husband?
Please. I'm begging you. I will get your whole money.
If you don't get the full money by the end of today, this is the last time you talk to your husband.
Hey, babe. How are you? How are the kids?
They are good.
Before we begin, let me ask you a question. Imagine somebody kidnaps your family member and demands money. You have the money, you can afford it, and paying it could save their life. Would you pay? Most people would immediately answer yes. In fact, many people watching this video would probably be wondering, why are we even discussing this? But now, let me make the situation bigger. Instead of your family member, imagine it's an entire country, a government, a president, thousands of millions of citizens depending on their decisions. The question becomes much more complicated because if you ever noticed, whenever kidnappings, terrorism, or hostage situation happen, governments often repeat the same thing.
We do not negotiate with terrorists. We do not pay ransom. We will not bow to criminals.
And every time people hear that, the reaction is usually,
why? If paying the ransom can save lives, why not just pay it?
Well, the answer is both simple and terrifying. Because the moment a government pays ransom, they might actually be creating an even bigger problem. Now let's break this down. Imagine you own a shop. One day, a thief comes in and steals your phone. Instead of arresting him, you give him money. What do you think he's going to do next? Exactly. He's coming back and probably bringing his friends too. Because you've just shown him that crime works. And that's exactly how government thinks about ransom. The moment criminals realize they can make money by taking hostages, guess what happens? More hostages get taken. More kidnappings happen. More victims appear. And before you know it, an entire industry has been created. Now, let's look at real life. Many terrorist organizations around the world have funded their operations through kidnapping. They take hostages, demand money, receive money, use that money to buy weapons, recruit members, plan attacks, and continue the circle. So, from a government perspective, paying ransom doesn't necessarily solve the problem. Sometimes it makes it worse. Now, this is where things start becoming uncomfortable. Because while all the calculations are happening, real people are involved. Real families, real victims, real lives. And that's why this situation is so controversial. Because imagine being the family of a hostage. You are not thinking about national security. You are not thinking about future kidnappings. You are thinking about one thing: getting your loved ones home alive. And honestly, who can blame you? Most people will feel exactly the same way. But governments are expected to think differently. They aren't just responsible for one person, they are responsible for everybody. And that's where the conflict begins. Now, here's something many people don't realize. Paying ransom doesn't actually guarantee the hostage will be released. But it's true, because criminals aren't exactly known for keeping promises. Sometimes, the money is collected and the hostage is still harmed. Sometimes, additional demands are made. Sometimes, new hostages are taken. Sometimes, negotiations completely collapse. So, government often argue that paying doesn't even guarantee success. You are taking a huge risk with no certainty of a positive outcome. Now, let's talk about another reason: reputation. And trust me, this is a big one. Because countries don't just worry about what happens today, they worry about what happens tomorrow. Imagine if a government becomes known for paying ransom every single time. What message does that send to criminals, to terrorists, to organized crime groups? It basically says, if you want money, take hostages, we'll give you. And that's not a message any government wants to send. Now, let's bring this closer to home. In many countries, including parts of Africa, kidnapping for ransom has become a major problem. And one of the biggest debates is always the same. Should government negotiate, or should they refuse completely? There are strong arguments on both sides. Some people argue that saving lives should always come first. Others argue that paying only creates more victims in the future. And honestly, there is no easy answer, because both sides have valid points. Now here is where movies often get it wrong. In films, the solution is usually simple. The hero pays the ransom, The hostage is released, everybody hugs, credits roll, problem solved. Real life isn't like that. Come back here. In reality, every decision creates consequences. Paying might save one person, but it could encourage 10 future kidnappings. Refusing might discourage criminals in the long run, but it could place current hostages at risk. That's why government struggles with these decisions. There is no perfect outcome, only difficult choices. Now, let's talk about another reason governments avoid paying ransom payments. Politics. Because whether we like it or not, public perception matters. Imagine a government paying millions of dollars to a terrorist organization. How do you explain that to citizens? How do you explain giving taxpayer money to people who are threatening innocent lives?
I cannot.
That's a political nightmare. Now, here's the irony. Even when government publicly say they don't negotiate, negotiations sometimes happens anyway, just not always in the way people imagine. Sometimes through intermediaries, sometimes through intelligence agencies, sometimes through prisoner exchange, and sometimes through backchannel decisions. The public statement may be, "We do not negotiate," but behind the scenes, things can be far more complicated because reality is messy. And governments often have to balance principle with practical solutions. Now, at the end of the day, this entire issue comes down on one brutal question. Do you focus on saving lives today or preventing more kidnappings tomorrow? And that's what makes ransom debate so difficult. Because nobody wants innocent people to suffer. Nobody wants families to lose their loved ones. But nobody wants to encourage criminals either. It's one of those situations where every option feels wrong. And perhaps that's why government continues struggling with it. Not because they don't care, not because they enjoy being stubborn, but because every decision carries consequences. And sometimes those consequences can last for years. So the next time you hear a government say,
We do not negotiate with terrorists,
remember, the issue isn't as simple as it sounds. Because behind those 5 words is one of the most difficult decisions any country can face. And honestly, no matter what side you're on, it's hard not to see why the debate never ends. But what do you think? Should the government pay ransom if it means saving lives? Or should they refuse even when the consequences are heartbreaking? Let me know in the comment section. And if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.